Hi, my name is Jennifer Howard, and today we're going to talk about the differences between Enneagram 1 with a 9 wing versus Enneagram 1 with a 2 wing. For those of you that have been following my channel for a little while, you know that this is a video that I did quite a ways back, probably more towards the beginning of the year, but I had an issue with the webcam not capturing the audio to that video, so I've been asked to remake it, so that's what I'm going to do for you today. So we're just going to jump right in. What are some of the differences between Enneagram with a, 1 with a 9 wing and an Enneagram 1 who has a 2 wing? One of the things to consider, and this is in any instance when you're comparing an Enneagram type with opposite wings, is to think about what do they do when they go to stress. I have done a video previously that talks about my personal theory about your Enneagram wing and what that means for you and what it contributes to your personality. For those of you that watched that video, you would know that in a nutshell, my overall theory is that your wing is a large part of how you handle the day-to-day stresses of every life. It's kind of like an additional set of coping mechanisms that you revert to help you handle those things. So I would encourage you to look at the wings from those perspectives. With that being said, what do we know then about an Enneagram 1 with 9 versus Enneagram 1 with 2? Well, if they have a 9 wing, a 9 is a withdrawing number on the Enneagram. They also, 9s tend to be, especially in comparison to 2, they tend to be a bit more emotionally detached. So I would say, and this has also been my experience, if you are an Enneagram type 1 and you have a 9 wing, you tend to be significantly more logical and intellectually based than an Enneagram 1 with a 2 wing. That does not mean that if you have a 2 wing you cannot be an intellectual person or a very logical and rational person. 1s are going to be like that in general because they're 1s. That's a large part of being a type 1, and there are many reasons for that. That will be in a different video. But when you have that 9 wing that's contributing to you as a 1, what it's going to do is kind of lend you this air of emotional detachment, this air of, I did everything I was supposed to do, so if it didn't work out, that must be because somebody else was lazy or they didn't follow the procedures, but that's not my fault, I did what I was supposed to do. It tends to be, I hate saying it like this because I know that it sounds critical, but I do not intend it to be critical. I just don't have any better language for this at this time. But a 1 with a 9 wing almost seems like they have a stronger self-interest compared to that of a 1 with a 2 wing. And here's what I mean by that. I'm going to use an example from my own life. I used to have a supervisor at a job. I don't have this job any longer, but I used to have a supervisor at this job who was a 1 with a 9 wing on the Enneagram, and his management style was a very hands-off management style. It was a very detached management style. He was really good at kind of playing the whole dictator role, the whole walk into a room, dispatch the orders, these are my expectations, this is exactly how you have to meet those expectations, these are all of the steps that you have to take, I'm going to come back later and check not only the end result, but every step you took to get to the end result to make sure that you did it properly. Have a nice day, goodbye. He had to answer to somebody that was on top of him for his management of me and the tasks that he was given, which were to be completed by me. And in the instances where those tasks were not completed to his satisfaction, and that could be for a number of many reasons, his report back to his supervisor was, I told her what to do, I told her how to do it, there's really no excuse for her not to have gotten it done. You know, it's almost like there's this I've washed my hands of this mentality. Like, I did what I was supposed to do, the rest of y'all are some delinquent people, you know, don't look at me. it's that kind of a thing. Versus a 1 with a 2 wing, they almost tend to be a little bit more group-minded, I would think. And perhaps if group-minded isn't the best way to say it, I would say other-minded, if that makes sense. And by that I mean that had my supervisor been a 1 with a 2 wing, it would have looked more like this. He would have come in and he would have said, okay, this is what needs to be done. This is my expectation for what needs to be done. This is exactly how I want all of these steps done. I'm going to stay here with you and help you with it and walk you through it, and let me know if there's something that you don't understand. I would love to teach you how to do this. I would love to show you how to do this. Do you guys see the difference? And I would also say to you that if my supervisor had been a 1 with a 2 wing, and, you know, if I had failed in doing something, he would have gone to his supervisor and said, I'm sorry, I was walking her through this process, and I explained it this way, and for whatever reason she didn't seem to understand it. I may have had some fault in that. I've done everything that I know to do. I would like to say that she's done everything she knows to do. You know what I mean? There's almost more of this willingness to consider their behaviors in terms of a collective, if that makes sense, versus this is me and I'm accountable for my behavior, and the rest of y'all are doing your own thing. I don't know what's wrong with y'all, kind of a thing. And I don't know if I've really even explained that very well at all. But that's a really big difference that I see between a 1 with a 9 wing and a 1 with a 2 wing. It's perhaps most evident in leadership positions or positions where they teach or influence, like a parenting style, for example. But it tends to be there nonetheless. And again, I think that comes from when you're drawing on that 9 wing and you're a 1, you're picking up on that sense of emotional detachment. And when you're a 1 and you're like ones already suppress what they feel, you know what I mean? Especially if it's a negative feeling. And even if they don't suppress it, there's always some sort of suppression for a type 1, because the thought process is, well, I shouldn't show too much emotion. It would be inappropriate to give myself over fully to this emotion. And I would say that idea is maximized when a 1 has a 9 wing. I mean, they almost kind of seem like flatlined. You know, they're just not gonna, being excited isn't a very big emotion for them. Being angry, on the other hand, would be if they let it get out of control, simply because 9 and 1 are both, you know, in the gut triad, which is rooted predominantly in, you know, emotions of anger. Perhaps rooted isn't the word, but that's their primary emotional struggle. Versus the 2 wing, which is, they're in the heart triad, they're an emotional number, and 2s are very other-oriented. 2s are feeling what you're feeling, so that tends to lend an air of emotional responsibility to a 1. Does that make sense? You know, that's another better way to say it. A 1 with a 9 wing almost has kind of a cold approach. It's like, this is what has to be done. This is the right thing to do. These are the expectations. This is the standard that you're going to be measured against. I'm sorry if you don't like that. That's how life is. Too bad, so sad. You need to deal with that. I mean, they could almost be in terms of, I don't know, coldness or firmness. They could almost be a little 8-ish in that respect. Versus a 1 with a 2 wing who would say, you know, this is what's expected, this is what we have to do, these are the standards that you're going to be held against, and I know that you don't like that, and I know that you don't feel like that's fair, but there's nothing that I can do about this because this is the way it is, and I would strongly advise you to learn how to work with this, you know, otherwise you're going to be in trouble. You know, I mean, there's almost just that tone of emotional concern, a little bit more empathy there, if that makes sense. So that's one point that I would make. I would also say this. When you're a 1 with a 9 wing, you tend to have a better understanding of where your responsibilities end and where someone else's responsibilities begin. For example, this may not be the best example, but it's the only one that comes to mind. If you are a 1 with a 9 wing and you're on a team at work, and it is a team, and there's some kind of evaluation that's going to happen. They're going to pull your whole team into a room, and everybody's going to have to go through this assessment with the management team. And you've got one person that's running like way late. Nobody's heard from them. They just haven't shown up, and it's not going to look good for your team if this person isn't there. If you're a 1 with a 9 wing, you're sitting back and you're watching this whole thing unfold, and you're thinking, you know, man, Adam is going to be in so much trouble when he comes in here. Like, of all days, he knew this was not the day to run late. I'm so glad I'm not him. And, you know, and then it's going to be like, when you're all pulled into this room and they're making sure everybody's there, you're going to be like, you know, they'll say, well, where is Adam? And it's almost like your response would be, maybe not out loud, but it would be like, I don't know where he is, but I'm here. I'm right here. I came and I was on time. That kind of a thing. If you're a 1 with a 2 wing, I think that your tendency would be, oh, Adam's not here. He knew that he was supposed to be here. I better call him and tell him that he needs to be here and remind him, or else we're all going to, you know, we may all get in trouble. This doesn't reflect well on our group. Do you see what I'm saying with the understanding of boundaries? It's like ones think of their reputation in terms of how they affect it. If you're a 1 with a 1 with a 9 wing. If you're a 1 with a 9 wing, the thought process is, these are my behaviors. My behaviors dictate truths about me. So if you're going to make judgments about me, make them off of my behaviors. A 1 with a 2 wing, on the other hand, may feel a little bit more socially responsible for the reputation of perhaps someone that they work with, or their spouse, or a child. Something of that nature. I just thought of another really good example to demonstrate that point. I was friends with this couple for a long time, and the wife in this relationship was a 1 with a 9 wing, and she had no problems being affiliated with her husband until her husband did something that other people frowned upon, or made statements about how inappropriate it was, or whatever else. And immediately, as soon as that happened, her response was, well, that was his idea. I told him not to do that, and he wouldn't listen to me. I didn't do that. I said from the beginning that he shouldn't have done that, and he chose not to listen to me. That's more 1 with 9. 1 with 2 would have approached that from the perspective of, I know, you're right. He shouldn't have done what he did, but he did it. I told him not to, but he chose not to listen. But look, there's nothing that we can do about it now. You know, I'll talk to him and I'll explain it to him. I'm sure that he's going to understand. If you'll just have some grace with him, you know, and give him a second chance. He really is a good guy. Sometimes he just needs a little extra direction. Does that make sense? Do you see the difference there? So I would say that, just in terms of understanding boundaries, you know, in terms of what really is my responsibility and what really isn't my responsibility, okay? Oh boy. I'm trying to pull my notes back up. I'm thinking about, I've got a couple points that I want to make, and I'm trying to decide, out of all the points I have, which ones I'd like to put in here. You know, another thing to consider is if you're a 1 with a 9 wing, and this goes back to just kind of drawing on the natural emotional detachment that 9s have, in addition to the emotional repression that 1s tend to have, is if you are a 1 with a 9 wing, it's almost like when I feel like if you're one with a 9 wing, when they get angry or frustrated, or even if they're feeling really passionate about something that they don't think is right or fair, you can almost see it. They're just like kind of stuffing it down. It's like, nope, not appropriate. I won't say that. If that's what you want to do, that's fine. Kind of a thing. They're not near as reactive as a 1 with a 2 wing. A 1 with a 2 wing can get a little bit more emotional, especially a little bit more passionate if there's something that they don't believe is fair. They're going to be a little bit more willing to speak up about that and get kind of heated about it. So I would say that that's another difference to look for. Actually, I want to give an example to that. So, in other words, if you're a 1 with a 9 wing and you say, this is how it is and this is what you should do, and someone disagrees with you, your response to that is more likely to be, I hear what you're saying, but you're wrong. Once again, this is what you need to do. So, I'm sorry, that's how it is. If you are a 1 with a 2 wing, the response may be more something like, how could you think that? You can't do that. This is how it is. This is why you have to do it this way. This is what I'm telling you. There's almost a little bit more urgency there. Definitely much more passion, right? I would also say this. If you are a 1 with a 9 wing, your ideals, your expectations, your beliefs about what is appropriate and what's inappropriate are going to be more set in stone than that of a 1 with a 2 wing. A 1 with a 2 wing is going to be a little bit more open to receiving interpretation from other people because they are going to have a greater concern for how other people see them than a 1 with a 9 wing would. 1s with a 9 wing are operating heavily, and I do mean heavily, out of kind of this unconscious desire, I would suspect, of I just want my own autonomy. I want to be free to do my own thing. If I am compliant to the rules and I behave well, then people will leave me alone and I can do whatever it is that I want to do. Autonomy is the largest need for all of the numbers in the gut triad, which is types 8, 9, and 1. The difference is the way that they go about earning that autonomy is different. So a 1 with a 9 wing will approach life with a very fixed black and white idea because they're not really concerned. I mean, they're a 1, so they want to be perceived in the light of being good, of being just, of being perfect, of being clean, of being pure. But even then, for a 1 with a 9 wing, I think that that's almost more about satisfying their own self-perception than that of a 1 with a 2 wing. Because 2 is a compliant number versus 9, by the way, which is withdrawing. A 1 with a 2 wing is going to be more focused, I think, on what other people think of them. I think that the idea of the good person, the ideal person, the person that's always right and never makes mistakes, that kind of a thing, I think that's an image that they need to make sure other people have of them. I mean, of course, again, you're a 1, so it's a feeling that you need to have inside of yourself as well, and I understand that. But I think when they have a 2 wing, it is a greater concern to them that other people would also agree with that persona. When you're a 1 with a 9 wing, other people should agree with that persona to the effect that they reward that by leaving you alone to do your own thing, to make your own rules, to set your own direction, to design your own list of ideals that you can operate out of without being encroached upon. You can organize life and get it into this nice, pretty, perfect, clean box the way that you want to. And 1s with a 9 wing tend to understand, perhaps on an unconscious level, that the way to attain that is to live life to the T, to what is expected of them, and they just kind of internalize those expectations culturally, from their society, from, the family of origin that they were raised in, from their religious background. All of those things are going to supply a 1 in general with ideals about this is what life should look like. This is how you should behave. This is how other people should behave. These are how your relationships are supposed to go. And when you're one with a 9 wing, those things are just internalized. They're written in stone. It's like the 10 Commandments. This is what we're all going to operate off of. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. If you're a 1 with a 2 wing, you internalize those things. You put them on a piece of paper in pencil, and you've got your eraser ready, because if someone comes along and says something otherwise, you want to make sure that you've got room to make alterations as you need to, so that other people can maintain this persona of you as this really good, flawless, perfect person. You know what I mean? If that makes sense. I would also say that if you're a 1 with a 2 wing, because you're going to have more of a people focus than a 1 with a 9 wing. Okay, this does need to be said. This is a key component. All right, this is a basic thing. Okay, if you're a 1 with a 2 wing, the types of advice that you give, the could, should, would kind of a thing, tends to be more people focused. Okay, if you're 1 with a 9 wing, the advice that you give, the orders that you give, maybe a better word, are going to be more task-oriented and procedure-oriented, okay? As an example, a 1 with a 9 wing would probably be just fantastic if the company has purchased a new software program and now everybody needs to go through this software program and learn how to operate it. There's going to have to be a manual that's taught. There's going to have to be training classes. But this software program is also capable of processing credit card transactions, which means that it's got to be PCI compliant. So in addition to this, we now need to make sure that all of our employees are trained on those compliance codes so that we don't get fined as a company. A 1 with a 9 wing is going to be... there are other numbers on the Enneagram that could teach that very successfully for very different reasons. But a 1 with a 9 wing would be one of those numbers. A 1 with a 9 wing could teach that, I imagine, quite flawlessly, because that's really their area where they shine, because they think in terms of procedures, of tasks, of this is the information that you need, step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, this is why, do it or else, kind of a thing. On the other hand, a 1 with a 2 wing, they're going to be probably more interested in, and I would imagine more successful in attempts like maybe even counseling, or if they're in a corporate job, designing and building a team of people whose entire job is to put together like annual parties and events and planning for the catering and picking out the music and things that may be more people focused. A 1 with a 2 wing may do really well in an HR position, especially if they get to do things like hiring or interviewing for hiring or that sort of thing, skill assessment, things that can help them say, what can I do right now that is going to utilize people, help people, develop people, but at the same time take those individual developments and develop the company. There will be variations on that depending on the one. Your Myers-Briggs type will actually affect that part a lot, because your Myers-Briggs type affects greatly whether or not you see things more individually or collectively as a larger picture. So your Myers-Briggs type is going to affect that, but but that's another thing to look for. And I can give you a really good example of a 1 with a 2 wing in this respect, because I still have a friend. She is a 1 with a 2 wing, and so she loves to do things that help people. She can do the task-oriented stuff and the procedure stuff all day long. That doesn't bother her. She kind of enjoys the routine of that. But it really, really warms her heart when she gets to advise another person or do something that just makes someone happy. As an example of this, she grows all of her own vegetables, all of her own fruits, makes almost all of the food that she eats, bread included. And I commented one time on a homemade salsa that she had. It was fabulous. And she got to thinking about me come the next time she needed to harvest. And so she took enough vegetables to make this salsa recipe and brings all of this to me, all these ingredients in a bag with the recipe typed up on a piece of paper, and as a gift to me, because she remembered how much I liked her salsa last year, so she wanted to gift me with the ingredients so that I could make my own this year. But again, she's a 1, so I didn't just get the gift. I also she had to walk me through how to store all of these vegetables properly until I wanted to make the salsa. Oh, and just so you know, I had to adjust the recipe a little bit, so you might taste it before you add this one ingredient, because the recipe technically calls for that, but when I ate it, after I made it that way, it tasted a little off to me, so I decided not to add as much, but just check it and see. Also, make sure you check your food processor, because my food processor has 3 settings, most only have 2, and you do need a 3rd setting, because I found if you grind it finer, it tends to taste better. And so she's giving me all of this advice, the how-to stuff, which I didn't ask for. But she's a 1, and so in her mind, especially because she has a 2 wing, not only has she been generous and given to me, which is the good thing to do, because you should give to your fellow man. If you have things to give, you should share. Sharing is good. But she's also blessed me with her information and her knowledge on how to maximize that process so that I could get the best out of it that I could get, right? So she's done her Good Samaritan thing for the day. She's helped me. She's been generous with me, and she's also helped me by giving me the advice on how to utilize these ingredients that she's given me. That's an example. A 1 with a 9 wing, I don't think would ever have thought to give me any ingredients in the first place. A 1 with a 9 wing probably would have said, oh, I'm glad you like it. I worked really hard on that. Thank you. And then tried really hard to replicate it again next year. There's my cat coming to say hi at the end of the video. So anyways, we do have a couple of minutes left. That's just another example, task-oriented versus people-oriented. I think I've pretty much covered the basics of what I wanted to cover. If you guys have any additional questions, or if I didn't explain something clearly, which I know does happen every now and again, you guys know always to leave a comment underneath of here, and I will try maybe to say it in a different way, or to unpack it if I didn't unpack it enough, or maybe to make it more concise if I spent too much time talking about it here. So just let me know. Your feedback is really important. Thank you.